God will be there. Find out more in this episode of 5 Minutes Closer. I'm Vaughn Weatherford, and this is 5 Minutes Closer. For the next 5 minutes, let's explore some biblical truths and apply them to your life. No podcast, including this one, can transform your life or give you what you really need. Only Jesus can do that. You can find out why in what I've called the first five episodes of 5 Minutes Closer. Each following episode explores scriptural truths that, if you follow them, will bring you 5 minutes closer to the person God created you to be. Let's see if we can get you 5 minutes closer. When you were a kid, did you ever get stuck up in a tree and have no idea how you would get down? Finally, somebody had to go get your dad, who stood underneath you and said, "Jump," to which you replied, "No, I think I'll wait till I grow big enough so that I can climb down on my own." After much coaxing, your dad finally said, "Don't worry. When you jump, I'll be here to catch you." So you grit your teeth, you'd step off the limb, and land safely in your father's arms. In Genesis 46, Jacob has one of those jump and I'll catch you moments. For years, he believed his son Joseph was dead. Now, he is going to join Joseph in Egypt, where his son, through God's providence, is second in power only to the Pharaoh. Jacob, now known as Israel, wonders if he's making the right decision to join his son when God reassures him in Genesis chapter 46, verses 1 through 4. So Israel took his journey with all he had and came to Beersheba and offered sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac. And God spoke to Israel in visions of the night and said, "Jacob, Jacob." And he said, "Here I am." Then he said, "I am God, the God of your father. Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for there I will make you into a great nation. I myself will go down with you to Egypt, and I will also bring you up again, and Joseph's hand shall close your eyes." Jacob paused on his journey and prepared to enter the land of Egypt. He was anxious. He was worried that he might not be doing the right thing, or that maybe God's protection would not follow him into the land of Egypt. So he did what we should all do in that kind of situation. He stopped, he worshiped, and he sought God's direction. God's answer affirmed the Lord's promise to Jacob. God would be with him in Egypt just as he had been with him in Canaan. Eventually his people would return to the promised land, though Jacob himself would die in Egypt. Thus the reference to Joseph's hands shall close your eyes. Most important to Jacob was that God would be with him in Egypt. God's promises would not disappear just because he went to a different place. He probably should have realized that since God had miraculously been with his son Joseph, one who Jacob thought was dead, and now in fact was second in power to the Pharaoh. But be that as it may, God renewed his covenant with Jacob. He would be with him, no matter the circumstances. Like so many of the heroes of our faith, Jacob lived a flawed life. He cheated his brother, only to turn around and cheat his uncle, littering his life with family grievances. Still, God had been faithful to his promise, and Jacob knew that God would always be with him. So can we. The Bible is a wonderful book in many ways, but one of the greatest testimonies is how God uses normal human beings, faults and all, to do his will. Jacob is a great example. This former cheater and conniver became the bearer of God's great promise. Christian history is full of the same kinds of examples. A man who devoted his life to the jailing and persecution of Christians became probably the greatest missionary who ever lived. We know him as the Apostle Paul. A former slave trader responsible for the deaths of hundreds of African men and women in the horrible transports of slaves bound for the New World, later would be saved and write the great hymn, Amazing Grace, a man named John Newton. A hard-living baseball player became one of the greatest evangelists in the history of the United States, a man called Billy Sunday. The list could go on and on. If you've entrusted your life into Jesus' hands, wherever you are, you can know God is with you. You can live in God's promise. And now, you're 5 minutes closer. My prayer is that these 5 minutes have challenged you, inspired you, and caused you to consider applying God's message for your life from His Word. To find out more, visit our website at 5minutescloser.com. Join me next time to see if we can get you 5 minutes closer.